In our teaching, we say often that the most powerful words that we can ever say are I am. And we also say, be really careful what you put after those two words, because it's owning it and it's claiming it, right? But is it? Is it really? Because the truth is, if I'm to be really honest, generally speaking, the words that I put after I am, the law is corresponding to my beliefs. And I'm I tend to be somebody who's smoking in the corner, and not somebody who is out and proud declaring my I ams. And then if you want to make it even more difficult, if you have a proclivity for sarcasm such as I do, then it gets really messy in this teaching, right? Like if you ask me why I hyphenated my last name, I will tell you, because I'm an idiot. Because I was young and dumb and thought that I needed to own my identity. And the truth is, it takes a really, really long time to sign my name. But here's the truth. There is not a single part of me that thinks I'm dumb. None of me thinks that I'm dumb. Insecure, maybe. Judgmental, too irreverent, not good enough, unlovable at times. Absolutely, that was in my consciousness. I'm dumb? Not so much. But the thing is that when we're feeling unlovable, what we say is, I can't find a good man. I don't know why every guy I date or girl turns out bad, or I suck in relationships. But what we're believing is that I am unlovable. And so the thing is that when we keep that stuff inside, that we are hiding our light. We are hiding so much of who we are. There is a knower within each of us, and every time we think, I can't let the world see us, every time we shove it down, every time we're careful what we say, and we're hiding who we are dimming our light, and we are not allowing the knower that we are to express ourselves, to express our lives. Craig said, I loved that, how will I know? Well, you are the knower. I am the knower. But when I throw crap on top of my knower, then I'm operating in the world from my broken parts. And that's the truth, because we're actively creating our lives based on what we believe. So, true confession time. Some of you know me from when I first started at this center, when it was originally CSL Westlake. And I had been around for a while. What a lot of you may not know is that 2 weeks before I started studying under Dr. James, I had what was diagnosed as a mini nervous breakdown. Everything had become so overwhelming and I couldn't function, and I found myself in a moment of just crying hysterically, and in my doctor's office where I was diagnosed with social anxiety, how ironic, and PTSD. And I was completely broken, because what had happened was I was keeping it all together under this veil of perfection, and I needed to be perfect. And I had been around this teaching, and so I had understood it in my mind. I understood life unfolds perfectly. I understood that there was this great cosmic energy that I called spirit at the time. I understood that at that time that my thoughts were creating my life. I didn't understand that my beliefs were creating my thoughts, which were creating my life. I had manifested some amazing parking spots. I had really thought that I had this teaching, but I was still so afraid of letting people see the real me. And there was a time where I thought I would have never managed imagined myself as a minister because I was a comedian, and those things just didn't go hand in hand. And I wasn't even a clean comedian. I was not one of those comics. I wasn't the Jerry Seinfeld. I was like, believe it at that. And I didn't know how I could take somebody who looked at the world so differently and marry enlightenment. And so, I thought I was keeping it together, and I was a mom, and I was taking classes, and I was a full-time working gal, and for all intents and purposes on the outside, I looked like I had it all together. I really did. I mean, all I needed was another half a child and a white picket fence, and I was living the American dream. And here I was, just dying and in tears and a mess in my doctor's office. And so they prescribed me with some medication that was going to fix all that for me, which was great. And somebody's calling my daughter. That's awesome. I don't have my own iPad, so I'm using hers. Hopefully they got the message that we're not going to be picking up that call. So I ended up in my doctor's office and with a ton of prescriptions. And then I ended up in Dr. James's class, and I was broken. I didn't have the ability to allow the outsides to look any different than the insides, and so I showed up to practitioner training the mess that I was, the true mess. And what it did was enable me to just start digging and to see what was really there and to allow the truth, not the truth of who I am, the truth of my experience to come out, because we create our experiences based on our beliefs. And I started digging, and I didn't care what James thought of me. Well, I did because that was some of the stuff that I had to work through, but I was willing to let my warts be seen. And it was ugly. It was ugly for those that were in the classes in those beginning days. And I began to let my knower do the knowing. And I began to rebuild as the knower and to live a life from that place. And I thought that I was really rocking it, let me tell you. And I was. Here's the truth. The life that I live today is remarkable. The person that I am today, the fact that I can stand up here without stage fright. I was a comedian who shook violently for the first 30 seconds that I got on stage. To be able to stand up here calmly is all a testament to what I had learned. But here's the thing, those beliefs that are creating our lives, they don't just disappear. They don't go away. They're just I'm operating from new beliefs and higher beliefs. And so the ones that tend to lead the way, more often than not, are the beliefs that are rooted in the truth of who I am, the knower within me that knows who I am and knows that I am the creator of this magnificent universe as I choose to see it. So I knew that something was rumbling up over the last couple of months. I could feel it. And what it was coming out as is a lot of, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. I'm overwhelmed. It was coming out as all of these things. And I just, God bless Reverend Eric, if I'm to be really honest, was at the recipient end of a lot of my complaining about just how busy my life had become and how overwhelmed I was and how things needed to go. And I was at the point where I was like, that can go, and you can go, and this can go. Like, I'm done, right? And then Thursday night in our in the advanced consciousness class, Dr. James casually mentioned that the class that he and I are going to start teaching next week, that he was shifting the books a bit. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? We're doing what now? We're just going to change up a book on me? And I felt myself like start to spin. And I was like, but I'm a great practitioner, right? And so I calmed myself down. And then I broke out in hives. Legitimately had to call my husband to bring in, and I'm trying to look like I'm paying attention in class if you can get the visual. That's fascinating. And scratching my whole body and casually texting my husband if he could managed to grab some Benadryl. That'd be great. And then I know enough to know, because if it's showing up on the outside, there's something going on the inside. And so I called Dr. James the next morning to let him know that he had caused my hives. And he wasn't willing to own it. And I thought, God, this man does not see himself clearly. Clearly. Just kidding. I love you, Dr. James. But we started to have a conversation about what was going on. And this is the confession. So I, a couple months ago, got the gift of stepping up as a leader at this center. I got the gift of being able to teach classes and speak and preside, and to really show up in a big way for this community that I love so much. And I strangle my knower with the need for perfection. I am so afraid of getting it wrong, of letting you down, of not being everything that I think that Dr. James expects of me, to do him proud when I stand up, when he unleashes me on his amazing congregation. And what was showing up was this fear that you were going to see, that I was learning how to do this. And as I was learning how to do this, I was somehow going to let all of you down. And it was funny, and we started to dive into this conversation, and he said, well, you know, I noticed when you were presiding, you did turn into a little bit of a church lady. Like, all of a sudden, he was like, who's this nun standing up there when she treats? Like, that's not the Tiffani that I know. And I heard that, and I was like, that's not the Tiffani that I know either. That's not the Tiffani that I know. So, miraculously, my hives cured. And we started to, really talk about, I was like, oh, darn it, it's that anchovies belief. So, I had this belief I was like, there's a belief in there, and I know I have to dig it out, and can't you just be responsible for my hives? I have this belief, like, some people love anchovies. Some people think anchovies, love a Caesar salad. Anchovies are great. Other people think anchovies are disgusting, and it's a very polarizing fish. And I have spent my entire life believing that I am anchovies, that there were people that were going to get me and see my brilliance and see my genius, and there were people who were going to be like, she's irreverent, and she doesn't honor this teaching. All those old beliefs that I couldn't be a minister because I was a comedian. And I learned this week, ironically, through a presentation at one of my kids' schools, that comedians' brains actually wire differently when they hear something funny, that there is actually like a biochemical difference in the brain of somebody who sees the world in that way. And I have to tell you that I spent so much of my life feeling different. I felt different, and I thought that it made me inferior. And what I've come to realize is it's my superpower, that my brain is wired differently, right? And so, I know I'm not the only one who spent so long pretending to be someone else. So this is me, unapologetically, allowing my knower to shine and recognizing that there is a light in me. There is a light in each and every one of you. Nobody gets to define you. You are undefinable. You are infinite in scope, the good and the bad. And when we let it out, first of all, you just might find that those things that were buried inside of you that you thought were unlovable are the things that make you dynamic and amazing. But you also just might find that in letting it out, and being willing to really talk about what's going on, that you're taking off those layers of crap that you have thrown on top of your knower and are able to live from that place, to live from that truth. Because if I were to ask each and every one of you right now to get really quiet, there is that still small voice inside of you that says, you are so much bigger than this. Stop playing it small. Go out and live. That's the knower inside of you saying, you can have it all. Go get it. Just live from me. And then we think, but what if they're going to judge it? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not enough? What if I come out into this amazing congregation as I'm learning how to be a minister and fall flat on my face? And I remember, and I don't know where the quote is, but there's that, but my darling, what if you fly? What if you have something to say in the unique way that only you can say it? And so, you will never see the church ladies stand on this stage again. I will not wear a blazer or a girly frilly dress again. This is it. This is what you get. And I invite each of you to live your life the same and declare it, own it. I am funny. I am irreverent. I am sometimes very inappropriate. And I am loving. And this teaching has changed my life, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for Dr. James and this teaching and this amazing, amazing community. And I love you all very, very much. Thank you for allowing me to grow and to be a part of this and to find my way and stumble my way into this new life that I have said yes to, because it's time for me to recognize that the knower in me knew all along that despite all of it, this was where I was supposed to be. So, with that, I leave you with a quote by Dr. Seuss. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Namaste.